Hey, welcome along. We've got a good treat for you today. I'm in conversation with Cliff Richard. Yes, him. Rock and roll superstar, royalty. So here we go. So we're going to talk about the old days, the early hits, the big things, the big Christmas hits. Let's go what he loves, what he doesn't like, his early influences, all coming up. So why don't we find out what happened when I met Cliff. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment away, and there'll be more of these coming up in due course. But here's our one for this time round. Cliff Richard in conversation. This is what happened when I caught up with him.
James, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start at the very beginning, Cliff. And well, I guess it was Elvis where it all started for you, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Elvis was probably the biggest inspiration for me and for thousands of us, and some of us got lucky, like me, and we managed to get a career. But America is always going to be the fatherland of rock and roll. It's where, you know, when we first heard Elvis and Little Richard, they seem to have come from another planet.
Yeah.
And they were so different to Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby and people like that.
Do you remember the first time you heard Elvis Presley?
Oh yeah, I do. With a gang of friends of mine, we were walking around in a little street in the hometown in Hertfordshire, and a guy pulled up with quite a nice-looking car. I think it was a Citroen, one of those old Citroens that look like the spacecraft. And he rushed into a newsagent, probably to buy paper or cigarettes or something. His windows were down and the radio was on, and we heard, "Since my baby left, you found it." It was Elvis singing "Heartbreak Hotel." We didn't know though, and before we could hear anything else, he got in the car, zoomed off, and we didn't know. 3 or 4 days later, a school friend of mine, came round and said, "I know who it is," and he'd heard it on. It was the American Forces Network, which came from Germany.
Yeah,
you know, in those days we used to have those little tiny radios, and we could pick up things like that. And he said, "It's a guy called Elvis Presley, and it's called Heartbreak Hotel." Well, we were out there saving up our pocket money, buying the record, buying the albums after that. It was just a wonderful time. So exciting. And, of course, hot on Elvis's heels was all the other stuff, the Little Richard and the Buddy Holly and the Everly Brothers, Ricky Nelson. Terrific.
Because Elvis was a major influence to you, of course, but to us, Move It came into the charts in 1958. Do you remember your first time when you had chart success yourself?
Yes, I mean, I remember that period really well. Apart from the record being in the charts, you know, a couple of records later, I remember reading a headline that absolutely blew me away. I never dreamt that this could happen to me. But it said, "Elvis and Cliff battle it out in the charts." And I'm thinking, oh, I could not believe that there I was. They're speaking about me in the same line as Elvis. So it was a fantastic feeling. And when the record got to number 2, I mean, I can't tell you what it was like. It's impossible to try and express that all your dreams, all your fantasies that you thought could never possibly come true, came true, and it felt even bigger and more exciting than I could have imagined. It was a fantastic time.
Did it seem to arrive very quickly, your success?
Well, in many ways it did. Obviously, people did used to hang around pubs and bars and sing and try and make some cash and had a desire to sing. But once I made the record, I got lucky again. A man called Jack Good was doing a TV show called Oh Boy, and he had me on his show with Move It, and it was a big, big plus because I came out there. They all started calling me Britain's answer to Elvis. I mean, there is no answer to Elvis. It's not a question. There's no question about it. But anyway, it was nice to be said, okay, he's the answer to Elvis, and the record shot to 2. It was a very, very quick thing. A lot of people wait years before they have a big success. And I only had to wait for my 5th record to get my first number 1. That was Living Doll.
Well, Living Doll, everyone knows Living Doll, and that had a second life with Comic Relief about 30 years later or something like that.
It was 27 years later, and they were doing the Red Nose Week, the Comic Relief, and they said, "We want to do a video and a record." I said, "Oh, okay, fine," and we did another million seller. It was incredible. So 27 years after it was number 1, it was number again and sold just as many records.
There are many records that are iconic to you, and you've done so many. You can do your life through records, the CDs, the records that you've made. Summer Holiday and the movies. How did that change your life?
Well, it changed it quite a lot, really. I mean, I never planned to get into movies. I never thought about movies, even though I'd been to see Elvis in movies. But having had one fantasy and dream come true, I wasn't expecting much of anything else. But as soon as Living Doll, Living Doll came from a movie. And within 2 months of having made the record and have it chart, move it, the record company said there's a film company that want an up-and-coming singer to be in their movie, and I guess I was the up-and-coming singer. So I did a film called Serious Charge, and in it was, written for me by Lionel Bart, was Living Doll. And when we decided to record it, though, we had to change it, because it was a sort of pseudo-rock song. And Bruce Welch says, look, if we're going to record this, let's do it in a better way. And he strummed it, and it became like a sort of country pop song. And of course the rest is history. People liked it that way, and we preferred it that way too. So very lucky again. Being in the right place, right time does mean a lot in this world.
Well, at the very beginning, all of us were written off as either one-hit wonders, or a clever Dick phrase was here today but gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so in a way, after a couple of years, you start thinking, oh, maybe they're right, But fortunately, the Shadows and I continued to have hits. I introduced them, recording-wise. I brought them into Norrie Paramore and said, "You've got to hear my band," because he didn't let me. He didn't. First 3 records, I think, were without the Shadows, because he couldn't trust that an amateur band could be any good. And I said, "You have to hear them," and he heard them. And from that moment onwards, I recorded with nobody else until they broke up. So the Shadows started having hits on their own, and between the two of us, we pretty well controlled the charts. But then the Beatles came along, and the 3 of us controlled the charts. But it was a fantastic time, and I'll always look back with great pleasure at that time.
You've done many gigs over your years. What are the standout gigs that you've done that you thought, wow, this is pretty special?
I always forget where it was, but there was a show. We were flown in by helicopter to do it. The Shadows and I, the Beatles. Paul McCartney was on. Pink Floyd was playing. Status Quo was on. It was a big open-air function way north of London. And there were 250,000 people. I've never sung to so many people live on stage before. And Elton was on as well. So where was it? It may come to me before we finish, and if it does, I'll scream out the name. But it was a fantastic one, absolutely fantastic. But I think my favorite place to play is still the Albert Hall. It's smaller, You're talking about an intimate 5,000-seater, but there's something prestigious about being in the capital city and playing at the Albert Hall. It's almost in the round. I don't know if you've been. It's a sort of circular building. Yeah. The stage is at one end, but you still feel as though you've got. In fact, I do. There's people sit behind you too, so I quite like the atmosphere of that. But that particular concert that I mentioned was very exciting, to be with all those huge names, all British, mostly all British. I don't know if there were any Americans, and it was just a very proud moment for me to get on that stage.
You're listening to James Watt in conversation with Cliff Richard. You did represent Great Britain in the Eurovision Song Contest, with congratulations.
Yeah, 1968, I got the chance to do it, and I thought, well, why not, And then I had 6 songs, and I sang each song on Cilla Black's show each week, and then on the 7th week, I did all the songs in her show. She had almost a night off, just introduced things, and the public picked congratulations. I mean, I could see that it had a chance to win. It's not. I don't think it's the best song I've ever recorded by any means. But look, I go to a restaurant sometimes, and there's a table there, and they're all singing "Happy Birthday." When "Happy Birthday's" finished, they all burst into congratulations. So I'm connected to a song that's become like "Happy Birthday." Everybody in the world seems to know it and use it to say, wish people happy anniversaries and things. So I'm very happy about it. And it turns out that even though I didn't win, I may well have won. There's a documentary maker in Spain, and apparently they have evidence that there was a certain skullduggery going on, and I could well have won, but a couple of juries, it's alleged, were paid off. So I live on that, because in the end, Spain won. A wonderful girl called Maciel. I know her. She's an absolutely terrific, delightful lady, very elegant lady. And she won. She beat me by 1 point.
Wow.
I outsold her in Spain. That year, Congratulations became the fastest-selling pop single in the history of Spanish records. That could have been broken by now, but at that stage that proved a lot to me. And so even though my name will never be down as winning Eurovision, I think I probably did.
In the late 70s, early 80s, you had another major resurgence into chart success, and We Don't Talk Anymore, an iconic song for you.
Yes, it's been the biggest selling single that I've ever released. It was a worldwide hit. And again, you know, Alan Tarney, who wrote the song, was in my band, played bass for me. And, you know, and the guy that wrote Devil Woman for me, Terry Britton, and also did a whole album of stuff with me, he was the guitarist in my band. And they used to play me their songs, and I'm thinking, I'm never going to be able to keep them in my band. I have to be prepared to lose these guys because they've just got something else to do. But they've stayed in touch with me, and they've written for me, and both of them have produced some of my biggest hits. And so We Don't Talk Anymore was one of Alan's, and I'm really grateful for the fact that I not only knew them, but they're friends, and they're great writers, and gave me first choice.
And Wired for Sound in the same sort of era as well. It was a very much a song of that moment, wasn't it?
It was absolutely, dead right. Again, Alan Tarney wrote that one for me, and we did an album called Wired for Sound. We Don't Talk Anymore came from an album that, in fact, Terry Britton produced most of the tracks, which was called Rock and Roll Juvenile. We hadn't planned to do that Alan Tarney song on it, but they arrived, Bruce Welch and Alan Tarney arrived at the studio while we were recording this other album and said, what do you think of this? And I said, fantastic, save it, we'll do it on the next album. He said, no, we've got to release it now. Terry and I looked at each other and we thought, well, okay, it is a big hit. We put it on the album, and of course it was the big hit.
Really, I tend to spend the summers in Portugal. I go to Barbados in the winter, and then I travel around, I do tours, and I like being in America. I enjoy being, I go there to record as well. But so I spend most of my life traveling around, to be honest with you. But I live everywhere. I mean, the houses I have feel like home. I'm a very fortunate man in that I wake up in the morning, no matter where I am. I'm in London as I speak to you, and I'm looking out the window thinking, oh my God, how did I ever get to be right smack here in London looking at a fabulous landscape of Canary Wharf? And it's fantastic for me. I am a very fortunate person. My career and rock and roll gave me a life that I could only dream about when I was at school.
Yeah.
You know, listening to Elvis and people like that. I never dreamed that I would actually have a career of my own. But, you know, it happens, and sometimes there's a certain amount of luck involved, but the thing about luck is you have to recognize it and then grab it by the throat and don't let go until something happens.
I mean, just about 50, well over 50 years, you've been in our hearts and you've been singing songs to us. Do you remember the first time you ever heard your song on the radio?
Oh, yeah, I did. It was Move It, of course. And, I mean, the first time I ever heard my voice on anything was in the recording studio. And I can't tell you, because in those early days, we didn't have multi-tracking. So we had to do it live, and then they'd say, do it again, so maybe 4 or 5 times. And then they said, come up and listen. And we'd go up, and I heard my voice coming out of the speakers, and I could not believe it. It's the most strange thing. And I still find that probably in the whole of my career, in the industry itself, the thing I've enjoyed most is recording. I mean, just using all that expensive equipment and having your voice come out at you, changing things if you've sung badly and something or mispronounced something. It's just the most fantastic, very creative part of our industry. So I can remember hearing it. It was on BBC, and it was, I can't remember what show it was, but I remember in those early days, our records, we rock and rollers we didn't take over. You know, I was played in between Frank Sinatra and Max Bygraves, a comedian, you know. So everybody got airplay. And I remember hearing it, thinking, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is me."
Now you've been everywhere, done it. You've got numerous T-shirts, Cliff, as we know. Okay, what is there anything you'd like to do? Anyone you'd like to play with that you've still got? Or I'd love to do that still.
Well, I mean, I'm always hearing songs by other people and think, "Oh, I wish I got that first." And I still would love to try and sing with someone like Mariah Carey. You know, you're talking about someone who's got. Mariah Carey must have about a 4-octave voice. Yeah. I think I've got half an octave.
3 big hits at Christmas time, started with Mistletoe and Wine. What was it like when you first got a Christmas hit?
It was really exciting because, you know, that time of the year, it's really tough to get into the charts, let alone get to number one, because I don't know about if it's true now, but certainly way back, certainly 10 years or more, 15 years or more back, you sold more records between October and December than the rest of the year combined. And it's because everyone's building up for that Christmas festivity and buying things to give away to people, that it was a tough market. Everybody and their mother and their grandmother released records. It was fantastically competitive, and it was fun, real fun. So to get to number one, it meant a great deal to me. And I think people think of me as Christmas and number ones, but you know what? I can only remember 3 Christmas number ones, and one of them wasn't even a Christmas song. It was a song Bruce and I wrote called I Love You, and it was number one at Christmas in 1962, I think. Then, of course, I had Mistletoe and Wine, and then there was Saviour's Day. Okay, I released Little Town, but it was number 8.
Yeah.
I released a couple
there
of
was
other songs
Millennium
like,
Prayer we thought of as well.
Millennium Prayer was a number one, you're right. And although it wasn't a Christmas song, it was more a millennium theme, and it had a kind of... There was a religious connotation, but only that it was a prayer. I couldn't believe that some radio stations and some DJs refused to play it. And I'm thinking, why? It didn't mention Jesus, it didn't mention God, but it was saying, let's pray for a future, that we can be forgiving to each other, that we can feed each other. And I couldn't quite figure out why not the best record I've ever made turned out to be one of the most controversial hits I've ever had. It was the least enjoyable hit, to be honest with you. I didn't like it that people found it so disturbing. I suppose it tells you more about them than it does about me.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was a difficult one, and now, of course, I've learned to live with that fact. And I think a lot of people must look back and think, why did we ban this innocuous, rather nice theme song?
How do you spend Christmas nowadays?
Oh, it varies really. I spend my time with friends usually. I come to New York for Christmas quite often. I brought my sisters here once for a Christmas present buying time, and it was just really fantastic. Everything seems to be lit up here. They treat it with great respect, and it's a very Christmassy effect. So I like coming here. I don't spend a great deal of time in England. I reside in Barbados, and work, and I try and split my time up between the places on the planet that I really enjoy and can work in.
Cliff Richard, thank you very much for coming on today.
Oh, no, my pleasure. Thank you for your interest, and it's great to have this help. Thank you so much.
And there we have it, Cliff Richard in conversation. Okay, if you'd like to subscribe, comment, like, that would be super. Oh, yeah. And do subscribe to the channel, because there's all this sort of stuff, lots of other celebrity interviews coming up, and the nonsense on the world of what's bit. Look at that playlist there, because we teach you really interesting, important stuff on that you'll absolutely love to give you a bit of a giggle. But stand by for another celebrity interview coming up fairly soon with an icon of music. This is James Watt, and I'll catch you for the next one.